Section 1. The Weight of Family. Family. It's a word loaded with emotion. It evokes feelings of love, warmth, and belonging. But what happens when the relationships within a family become strained, unhealthy, even toxic? Navigating these complex dynamics can be one of the most challenging experiences we face. The guilt, the fear of judgment, the potential for conflict, these are powerful forces that can keep us stuck in unhealthy patterns for years. Ignoring the toxicity won't make it disappear. Breaking free from toxic enabling family relationships is about reclaiming our lives, setting healthy boundaries, and fostering relationships built on respect, honesty, and genuine care. Section 2. The Cycle of Enabling. Enabling occurs when one family member supports or facilitates harmful behavior in another, often out of a misguided sense of love, fear, or a desire to avoid conflict. This support might involve making excuses for unacceptable behavior, covering up mistakes, or constantly rescuing the individual from the natural consequences of their actions. However, this type of enabling ultimately prevents the individual from facing the necessary consequences of their actions, hindering personal growth and change. Instead of hitting a point where they are forced to confront their behavior, the individual remains stuck in a cycle of dysfunction. Section 3. Recognizing the signs. Recognizing the signs of toxic enabling is the first step towards breaking free from these damaging patterns. Often enabling behaviors are deeply ingrained, woven into the fabric of family life for so long that they become normalized. Take, for instance, the family who avoids addressing a member's controlling and manipulative behavior. These unspoken agreements, these patterns of avoidance and enabling, create a breeding ground for dysfunction. The first step in breaking free is acknowledging that these patterns exist, that they are harmful, and that something needs to change. One of the most common forms of enabling is denial. Family members might make excuses saying things like, "He's just going through a phase," or "She doesn't mean any harm." This denial serves as a protective mechanism, shielding the enabler from the painful reality of their loved one's struggles. However, this denial allows the harmful behavior to continue unchecked. Without acknowledgement and accountability, the individual engaging in the behavior has no reason to change. Another hallmark of toxic enabling is the assumption of responsibility for the individual's actions. This might involve constantly cleaning up their messes, covering up their mistakes, or bailing them out of difficult situations. While these actions might stem from a place of love and concern, they ultimately prevent the individual from experiencing the natural consequences of their choices. This dynamic can be incredibly draining for the enabler. The weight of constantly carrying the burden for another person's choices can lead to feelings of resentment, burnout, and a sense of being taken advantage of. We can only control our own responses and set healthy boundaries for ourselves. Perhaps one of the most insidious forms of enabling is the unspoken agreement to avoid conflict. In families where toxic enabling is present, there's often a pervasive atmosphere of fear and silence. Family members might tiptoe around the individual engaging in harmful behavior, afraid to say or do anything that might trigger an outburst or escalate the situation. By avoiding difficult conversations, by sweeping issues under the rug, the family allows resentment and anger to fester beneath the surface. This lack of open and honest communication creates a breeding ground for dysfunction. It creates a culture of fear and avoidance where true intimacy and connection become impossible. Section 1. The enabled individual, trapped in a cycle of dysfunction. By shielding the individual from the natural consequences of their actions, enabling creates a dangerous illusion. a world where accountability is absent and unhealthy choices appear to have no real repercussions. This lack of accountability can have a devastating impact on the individual being enabled. The enabling, intended as a lifeline, becomes an anchor, keeping them tethered to their unhealthy patterns. This cycle can continue for years, even decades, with the individual never truly facing the need for personal responsibility and change. Section 2, the enabler. Drowning in a sea of resentment. While the individual being enabled might appear to have it easy, the reality is that enabling takes a heavy toll on the enabler as well. The constant need to rescue, to fix, to cover up can lead to feelings of exhaustion, resentment, and a profound sense of being trapped. Over time, this constant giving without receiving, this endless cycle of rescuing and enabling can breed resentment and anger. This resentment can poison the relationship, creating a dynamic of anger, guilt, and emotional distance. Section 3. The family system, a web of broken connections. The impact of toxic enabling extends far beyond the individual being enabled and the enabler themselves. Like ripples in a pond, the effects of these unhealthy patterns spread outward, impacting the entire family system. The family dynamic becomes skewed, with everyone tiptoeing around the individual being enabled, afraid to upset the delicate balance that has been established. This unspoken tension can create deep rifts within the family, eroding trust, intimacy, and the very foundation of healthy relationships. Breaking free from the cycle of toxic enabling requires a fundamental shift in the family dynamic. It demands that we establish clear, healthy boundaries, invisible lines that define where our responsibility for others ends and our responsibility to ourselves begins. Boundaries are not about building walls or cutting people off. They are about creating a safe and sustainable space for healthy relationships to flourish. Without clear boundaries, we become overrun by the needs and demands of others, our own well-being neglected, and our growth stunted. Boundaries provide structure, clarity, and a sense of agency. This ability to define our limits is essential in any relationship, but it becomes even more critical when navigating the complexities of toxic enabling. Setting boundaries begins with self-awareness. It requires us to look inward and honestly assess our own needs, values, and limits. What are you willing to tolerate? What behaviors are unacceptable to you? Where do you draw the line between offering support and enabling harmful behavior? This process of self-reflection can be challenging. However, it's essential to remember that setting boundaries is not selfish. It's an act of self-preservation. Identifying our limits allows us to show up for our loved ones in a way that is healthy, sustainable, and ultimately more beneficial in the long run. And once we have identified our boundaries, the next step is to communicate them clearly and assertively to our family members. This can be a difficult conversation, especially if the family dynamic has been characterized by silence and avoidance. When communicating your boundaries, use I statements to express your needs and limits without blaming or accusing others. Remember, setting boundaries is not about controlling others. It's about taking responsibility for our own well-being. This shift in communication can be a powerful catalyst for change, creating a space for healthier, more balanced relationships to emerge. Setting clear boundaries is crucial, but it's only the first step. To break free from the cycle of toxic enabling, we need to communicate those boundaries effectively. This requires mastering the art of assertive communication, a way of expressing ourselves that is both honest and respectful. Assertive communication is not about attacking others. It's about advocating for ourselves with clarity and compassion. It's about recognizing that our needs and feelings are valid and deserve to be expressed. Assertive communication involves striking a delicate balance, expressing our needs and limits clearly, while remaining respectful of the other person's perspective. One of the key elements of assertive communication is the use of I statements. This simple shift in language can make a world of difference in how our message is received. Instead of using accusatory you statements, which often trigger defensiveness, I statements allow us to take ownership of our feelings and experiences. This subtle shift in language can completely change the tone of the conversation, making it more likely that the other person will be receptive to hearing our perspective. Setting boundaries and communicating assertively might be met with resistance, especially in families with toxic enabling. Family members might push back, guilt trip us, or minimize our concerns. Stay grounded in your convictions and avoid old patterns. Remember, these boundaries protect your well-being and create a healthier dynamic. Anticipate resistance and prepare responses in advance. We can only control our own actions, not the actions of others. We cannot force our family members to change their behavior. This realization can be both liberating and frustrating. It releases us from the burden of trying to fix others. We are no longer responsible for their choices. This shift allows us to step back from the drama. Accepting our limitations can be difficult. We might desperately want our family members to change. Clinging to this desire for control keeps us tethered to dysfunction. Navigating the complexities of toxic enabling within a family system can be an incredibly isolating and overwhelming experience. We might feel like we're the only ones who see the problem, the only ones who are trying to change the dynamic. During these challenging times, seeking external support can be invaluable. Talking to a therapist, counselor, or support group can provide a safe and confidential space to process our emotions, gain perspective, and develop healthy coping strategies. A skilled therapist can help us understand the dynamics of toxic enabling, identify our own patterns of behavior, and develop assertive communication skills. They can also provide guidance as we navigate the challenging process of setting boundaries with our family members. Beyond professional support, it's essential to cultivate a network of trusted friends, mentors, or spiritual advisors who can offer encouragement, guidance, and a listening ear. These individuals can provide a much-needed source of strength and perspective during times when we feel overwhelmed or discouraged. It's important to choose our support system carefully, surrounding ourselves with people who are empathetic, non-judgmental, and supportive of our journey. We might need to distance ourselves from certain individuals who minimize our experiences, offer unsolicited advice, or try to draw us back into old patterns of behavior. Remember, setting boundaries applies not only to our family members, but to all of our relationships. We have the right to choose who we allow into our inner circle, surrounding ourselves with those who uplift and empower us. Section 4. The importance of self-care. Prioritize your well-being amidst toxic enabling. Make self-care non-negotiable, not a luxury. Self-care is self-preservation, replenishing our energy. It looks different for everyone. Engage in activities that bring joy and relaxation. Prioritize physical health through exercise and sleep. Prioritize well-being to handle life's challenges better. Redefining love, detaching with love. This phrase might seem paradoxical, especially within family relationships. We believe love equals constant support and sacrifice, but this can become a trap, tethering us to unhealthy patterns. Detaching with love means redefining love itself. True love sometimes means letting go. Detaching with love is a process, not a one-time event. It requires patience, compassion, and a willingness to surrender our expectations. It might involve setting firm boundaries, limiting contact, or even distancing ourselves physically or emotionally. Detaching with love is about self-preservation. It's about creating a safe space for ourselves to heal and grow. Section 3. Empowering through responsibility. Setting limits doesn't mean we become indifferent to our loved ones. It means shifting our focus from enabling to empowering, encouraging them to take responsibility for their actions, allowing them to experience natural consequences. We change the nature of our support. The backlash of change. Change is rarely easy, especially within the entrenched dynamics of a family system. Setting boundaries and communicating assertively disrupts the status quo, challenging unspoken family rules. This disruption can be met with fierce resistance as family members cling to the familiar. Resistance can take many forms: anger, guilt trips, manipulation, or accusations of betrayal. Prepare for backlash. It's a natural response to change, even positive change. Setting healthy boundaries and communicating assertively can lead to positive changes in family dynamics. However, sometimes the toxicity persists. We might encounter emotional abuse, we might need to distance ourselves from certain family members. Remember, we have a right to protect ourselves. Section 3. Defining distance. Distancing ourselves from toxic family members doesn't necessarily mean cutting off all contact. It might involve setting firm boundaries on interactions, limiting communication, or choosing not to attend family gatherings where the toxic behavior is likely to occur. The key is to find a level of distance that feels safe and sustainable for you, a level that allows you to protect your own well-being without completely severing ties. This might require honest conversations with family members about your needs and limits. It's important to communicate your boundaries clearly and assertively without blame or judgment. For example, you might say something like, "I love you, but I need to take a break from attending family gatherings right now. The environment is not healthy for me and I need to prioritize my own well-being." Section 4. Honoring your needs. Choosing to distance yourself from toxic family members is a deeply personal decision, and there is no right or wrong answer. It's essential to honor your own needs and to trust your gut instinct. If a relationship is consistently causing you pain, stress, or emotional distress, it's okay to create some distance, even if it's difficult. Remember, you are not obligated to maintain relationships that are harmful to your well-being. Regardless of family ties, choosing to distance yourself from toxic family members is not selfish. It's an act of self-care, a way of prioritizing your own mental and emotional health. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to step back from unhealthy relationships, even if it means breaking away from the expectations of others. Breaking free from toxic, enabling family relationships is a courageous journey. It requires immense strength to confront deeply ingrained patterns and prioritize our well-being. The path to healing is rarely linear. We must reconnect with our inner strength and resilience. Breaking free from toxic family relationships can alter our lives. It might mean redefining roles, creating new traditions, or letting go of certain relationships. This change can be both liberating and disorienting. We might grieve the loss of the idealized family we never had. Healing creates space for a new family landscape defined by honesty and genuine connection. This new landscape honors our authentic selves and values.